Hey everybody, this is Al with El Rey Collection, and I'm going to continue the series that I'm doing on the top 10s by decades. I hope you like my really high-tech graphic over here where I show the cards. So it's all about the content here on the Epic Cardboard channel, not about the presentation so much. So anyway, listen, the 1910s is a really hard decade to do, mostly because the game's still at its early phase, and still most of the cards coming out of soccer stars in general have to come out of England because that's where most of the playing is still occurring, and that's where the superstars are. That's where the game's most developed, and of course we also have during this time, the 1910s, the onset of World War One, which throws the entire continent into turmoil, and the UK as well, which adds to a dearth of issues. Certainly, from the war to the end of the decade. So what you'll see is probably a disproportionate shift of some of these cards towards the 1910. And the good news is there's some amazing ones from there, and again, unfortunate from a collecting standpoint. We're going to be really heavy on the British stars once again in this decade, and then it kind of I don't want to say goes away after that, because there'll certainly be UK stars in pretty much most, well, at least the 1920s, and then we'll have them again in the 50s and 60s, likely 70s maybe. But they go from dominating the 1890s, 1900s, 1910s in terms of cards to being not nearly as much of a factor, and that goes along with the development of the game. In the end, it was the English game. It got developed here first, and that's why we see most of the cards. So again, this focuses on the cards, which this series focuses on the cards, which takes into account scarcity, desirability, player career, following team. So there's many different things that kind of go into it. So without further ado, I will take away this very sophisticated graphic, and that'll slowly move off your screen, and you will see the number 10 on the list, which is a 1910 Gallagher, Ernst Needham. You guys may remember he played for Sheffield United for a little less than 20 years, won a couple FA Cups, captained the team from the mid 1800s to the mid 1910s. And here we have on the cusp of basically this is going to be one of his last cards, but I just love this card. I'm not normally a cartoon card type collector, but in this particular card, number one, these are just pretty scarce cards, and then number two, I really like the image on it, and he's heading the ball, and then the back is also, as most of these UK issues, really nice. So this is a Gallagher. I haven't seen many of these, but this is of the Sheffield United great, and so that would be number 10. There's also a Bob Crompton of him. I just threw him in because I'm also trying to remember I have the maximum three card per player rule, which won't likely come into effect probably till you get to the Pele's here. So here is Bob Crompton speaking of the devil, so to speak. So I think he had the record for most caps for England for a long time. I think I've talked about him before, so I don't need to go into his career, but certainly for Blackburn, he's a legend, English Football Hall of Fame. This card may seem bizarre that it's on the list, and the main reason that I have this on the list is twofold. I think it's markedly an important card because, well, first of all, the Murray cigarettes are very rare, and we'll see another one later. And some people, believe that the Murrays are probably the most rare English cigarette issue of after 1900. So it's a rare card. Epic, iconic player, very important. But what I like about this card is it's the very first one that I'm aware of that's not an inaction card, where the player's in a completely different position, not this head-on position for a photograph. And I just find it so interesting because of how bad the photograph is. We see the side of his face and his arm and kind of a profile of the body picture. So I find that rarity, that rare type of an image and almost a bad image, bizarrely interesting and attractive. So all of these Murray cigarettes have this back to it, and they have different series attached to them, like J, F, H. So this particular one is the J. I've never been able to fully understand what those different series are, but this is just one of these cards that has always called me and called me bizarre. You many of you may not have this on your list at all, and I wouldn't blame you either. So just let me know in your comments if you find this card as interesting, as I do. Again, 1913 Murray cigarettes, Bob Crompton. So I think Crompton had one hell of a mustache, but so did Rysbeck, Alex Rysbeck, and he's a Liverpool great, and he makes an appearance here on one of my favorite Copes issues of all time. It's the noted footballers, but we commonly call this the Solace cards. These, just the photographs on these are insane. Almost all of them that you find will have these nicks along the side, and then many UK collectors back in the day would use a Sharpie to color those in. Of course, if that happens, which it happens a lot, those end up as authentics because technically they're doctored, even though I know that wasn't the intent of collectors. So, Alex Rysbeck here, again, look at that stash. It's like a Bob Crompton stash. Again, great player, pretty underrated. I'm not sure if I had him in the last video that I did on the 1910s, but he was a Scottish great, played for Liverpool for a long time, and yeah, so that's an awesome card. Now the only non UK card is this one, and first I'll show it like this because this is the way the camera is set up, but then I'll make it easier on the eye and just show you the players. And so this is a Barcelona card from 1914, 15, 16, depending on who you ask. And it's a team card, and it's from a series where there was a bunch of different team cards, including, I think it's Bilbao has one for Rafael Moreno, who ultimately the leading scorer of the La Liga trophies named after him. And here, this is a chocolate Amatler, and you're going to see this all throughout the 1920s. One of the leading manufacturers. What makes this interesting, not just because I'm a Barcelona fan, but we have Paulino Alcantara on this team, and that's his first appearance. I don't really consider these first appearance cards on a team card like a rookie card, but I love the positioning of this team photo. This is Alcantara, by the way, right here. They're just all standing there. They've got like kind of their hands to the side or back. They've got the ball on the ground. And, Alcantara, you could arguably say, is the most important Asian player ever from the Philippines, and really still, one of the leaders of goals for Barcelona, one of the best, clubs in the world throughout history. And I find this card just, amazing. And super to have it as part of the collection. So that was number, see, 10, 9, 8, 7. So I'm going to jump into 6, and we've got, Bob Crompton making another appearance here in these beautiful baby blue Koch brothers noted footballer sets. Again, here, whereas we call the other ones, the Solace, we traditionally call these, at least me and my collecting friends call them the Clips, the Koch Clips. Just beautiful, beautiful cards. You see him here with the Blackburn Rovers as he played most of his career. Super clean, this version. This copy. It's just hard to argue with Crompton, number one. The epic player, leader caps for England for the first 50 years. Basically institution at Blackburn, and then matched with these baby blues. Now these are super easy to chip, so it's really hard to get a decent grade in these. Really fragile cards, but gotta be in the top 20 most beautiful cards ever created. All right, so the next one on the list. So again, unfortunately, if you notice, this list could pretty much be a first half of the 1910 decade, because that's all we have. Because the war starts and everything kind of gets shut down. So instead of a 10-year horizon, we're really looking at a 5-year horizon here, because the war basically stops everything. So it's kind of disingenuous to say it's a full decade, because the war basically stopped everything. So here, you'll find this Solace of Needham, and again, just the vivid images, the facial expression. It's hard not to fall in love with these cards, these Solace cards. I tell you, the only thing that I don't love about these, and I don't even know if I showed this before, is that they're blank backs. I usually like an ornate back, as I kind of look through there. So all right, so now we're down to, let's see, the last 3. So and sorry for the repeats on these. It's just it's hard to pick any other card over these beautiful Koch Clips, and this happens to be Billy Meredith. Of course, here he's playing with Manchester United, and he is obviously, this is another epic card of his. I think he hit the limit probably in the 1900s video, and he will not hit the limit, I don't think, and maybe he will in this video, but this is just another one of the amazing cards that he has that for me is certainly a top 5 or 6 card of his, even if it's not a rookie. And that's one thing I really like about the early British stuff, is that there's true value on scarcity, rarity, sets. It's not necessarily just about their first card, which tends to really take over in all collecting for all sports cards later on in history. So the number 3 on the list then is going to be the Murrays, which we already talked about, the scarcity, and that's the thing that I think that this card most has going for it, is just how scarce it is. And there's while PSA, which can't even remember if they even graded any, and SGC don't notice what I'd mentioned before on the Crompton cards, like this being Series J. Sorry for my fat finger there. Series J. There's also, by the way, same card, same grade, but this one is Series H. Let's see that. So again, there's these different series, and this card looks the same. I'm not treating these as 2 separate cards, by the way. Right? There's a Series H and a Series J, so they don't call any difference to them. In fact, they probably don't know. You have to carefully look at the bottom. And again, I'm not exactly sure why, but this card is generally considered one of the most scarce cards of Meredith out there. And now we're down to the top two, and it's always hard with these guys, because you've got Bloomer being, such an important, player, massive goal scorer, iconic player, with, bus everywhere, with, them singing Steve Bloomer's Watching, Derby County legend. Here in a Cope's Clips baby blue and a PSA 6, this is just an epic card. Again, look at the back here as they talk about the Derby County guys. So, I think that from the 1910s to 1919, again, just a preponderance of these early pre-war cards. And then the winner, the number one most important card in the 1910 period, for me, has to be the 1913-14 Taddy & Co. Billy Meredith London mixture. And, I think I've told this story a number of times in different ways and places, but this to me is actually kind of the Honest Wagner of football cards. It comes from an iconic set, the Taddy & Co. set that was issued, as you may have seen in my other videos, in 1907, 1908. And highly collected. There were websites about the set, very similar to the T206 set for baseball in the United States. So epic set, huge set, beautiful, unique, incredible typesetting, incredible, just incredible cards in general, with great checklists, and we could spend hours just talking about the Taddy set. But what makes this interesting is Taddy was going to have a follow-up set to that set many years later, right before the war, and all of those, you may remember, were sold with Grapple mixture or Imperial tobacco. Those are the backs that you'll find in the earlier ones. And in 1914, now they're using to market the London mixture brand. Okay, and then the graphics are different, some slight nuances in the type setting. But these cards were planned to be launched and were launched right before the beginning of the war, and then the war shut down all of the production. So not many of these cards made it out to the street, so to speak. So that creates some lore around the similar to the Honest Wagner. And when I think about the importance of the player, just like Honest Wagner, he was an amazingly important pre-war, player, maybe one of the best shortstops ever. And Meredith's career, in terms of importance, longevity, and impact for both City and Manchester United, was similarly important. And then this card actually wasn't even cataloged, as a number of the Manchester United guys were not cataloged until the early 2000s. So while the set has been known about and collected for nearly 100 years, at that point, or at least 80 plus, only copies of a number of the Manchester United guys were found in the early 2000s, and there's still only a handful of copies that I know from UK collectors. So for me, when I think about all of the boxes you need to check, this card checks them, almost all. And from my perspective, it has to be one of my most prized football cards. And certainly, I probably would be the last one out of all the cards we've seen up to date from the 1890s through, I guess technically 1919, that I would let go from my collection. So it's, again, the Billy Meredith, Taddy & Co., Manchester United card. I did want to mention that PSA actually has one of these labeled as 1913-14 Taddy & Co. And unfortunately, that actually I have that card, and it's not this version. It's actually the 1907 version. So this is one of the cases where, if given the choice between a London Mixture 1914 Taddy or an earlier Taddy, I would almost always gravitate to the London Mixture. They're just much more scarce, special, and those that were emitted were emitted at a very crucial time. So hope you've enjoyed the top 10 of the 1910s video, and if you have, please smash that like button. Please subscribe. It'll keep me motivated to continue to do these videos, and let me know your thoughts. If there's some of these cards you'd kick out and others that you'd kick in. Looking forward to sharing all of our knowledge, and continuing to make this a great hobby. Thanks, everybody.